go off at all after all the rain?
We heard them just around our neighborhood a little bit, but the Twins had a big fireworks show
Mm.
after the game on Wednesday,
Yep.
and so stuck around for that a little bit. But I didn't. We didn't go anywhere in particular. Many of the events around our neighborhood were canceled because the
Hmm.
weather just seemed so ominous, leading up to the afternoon and to the evening. So there wasn't much planned with actual fireworks on July 4th, but we got some in the day before.
Okay, well, good deal. Hey, we're going to talk plenty stuff that's going on with Twins baseball in just a little bit, but I want to tell you a story, and I'm going to follow it up with a question. So my dad runs a radio station in southern Minnesota, which is a Twins affiliate. And when I was in high school, we would go on a lot of drives. That job requires going on a lot of drives, and more often than not, a Twins game was on the radio. So I wanted to say thank you for kind of being the soundtrack to my high school years of driving around with my dad. And I know you and Dom have probably talked about it early on in the season. But as a fan and someone who's followed your career, how has this transition been for you going from the radio side to TV? Because I know there's differences between both of them, but you're making it look seamless. How's it all been for you?
Well, it's very kind. Thank you for the kind words. I'm really having a good time. I just feel like there's time to have conversation, and the medium of television allows you to have it in a way where you can keep the dialogue going while action is happening because it's a visual medium. It's not
Hmm.
something that, and I stress that to Justin and to Glenn, to Denard, Roy, Trevor, Latroy, everybody. I said, look, if you're in the middle of something and the pitch is thrown, keep going. I don't need to say the pitch is outside. We can all see it. I mean, so just keep going on the story. And so that has been an adjustment, I think, for everybody. But just to myself, that like we can still have dialogue while the action is happening. Can't do that on radio.
Right.
You can have conversation, but you have to call the game. You have to call the pitches, and because that's what people are listening for. They're listening for the action, the stories, and all that. That comes in between. But you can't miss plays when you're doing radio. You can miss some action on TV. So that's been an adjustment,
Hmm.
I think, for everybody, and certainly for me when I started doing this on a daily basis. But there are times, sure, that I miss radio. I think of like a day like yesterday, a July 4th, a Father's Day, a Mother's Day, the fishing opener, things like that, where I think so many people are just listening to the game.
Yep.
I don't know how intently, but it's background noise,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
it's there. It's a companion.
Hmm.
It's a summer companion. That's a way to kind of think about it. That a day like yesterday is a day that, yeah, this wouldn't be a bad day just to kind of go back over and do a game or two on radio, and that may happen one day.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I'm thrilled for Chris, and he's having a great time. He's doing awesome, and I'm enjoying though, my end too, doing TV.
Well, you're doing a great job. I know from myself watching and a lot of my friends watching as well. Love what you're doing over there. So I just wanted to applaud you on that. Okay, let's talk about the Twins and what they've been doing recently. It's been a real good stretch for them. They've won 8 out of their last 11. Pick up a series win against the Tigers. How would you rate the last couple of weeks for the Twins?
It hasn't been as turbulent as we have seen at various points through the first, as it was, I would say, through the first 75 games, 70
Yeah.
games, where there were ups, there were downs. It's been pretty steady. They're not winning every game, but we're not seeing 7, 8 game losing streaks. We're not seeing 12 game winning streaks either. I think it's kind of leveled off in a
Hmm.
way that, okay, some ups, some downs, but they're minor bumps. They're not as
Right.
drastic as we saw in the chunks in April, May, and certainly in June, early June. But the offense remains one of the best in baseball. And this is not just a fluke here. This has been a steady sight and a steady ascend, if you will, going back to late April when this team started getting hot. And they were like, wow, that's great. They're doing this against some bad teams, the White Sox, the Angels. But what's this going to look like? Well, it's been pretty consistent in terms of run scoring, in terms of slugging and OPS. It's been a wonderful, wonderful offense. And that to me has been I think, driving this more than it was earlier. The pitching has been okay, some good ones, some bad ones,
Yep.
but if this team is down 3-0, 4-0 early, no big deal. They're finding a way to
Hmm.
come back and grind these at bats and put up some crooked numbers as we saw again yesterday. So
Right.
that to me has been I think the heartbeat of this team has been the offense. The way this thing is going right now, it's been consistent. It hasn't been just one guy either, Sam.
Yeah.
That's been nice to see. There's been multiple players that have been hot during this run now for a while.
And we'll touch on some of those players in just a little bit. But that transition from Wednesday was not the best game for Minnesota. And then they go into yesterday and really put down an offensive beating. What did you think of that turnaround and that the team not getting down on themselves after a game? And those games will happen like they did on Wednesday.
They will. And Kenta Maeda, he had some great times and great moments as a Twin, but he's had a really rough year. So you're down 3-0. If that's Tarek Skubal, that's going to be hard to come back from. Just how good that guy is, and he's going to be an all-star. He's one
Hmm.
of he could win the Cy Young Award. That's how good he's been. But against Kenta with an ERA over 5 and some numbers that didn't blow you away, you didn't see big strikeout numbers out. I think there was all right. Don't panic. To me, the concern was going to be have the lead before the rain arrives. Because
Right.
I didn't think there was a chance we'd get all 9 innings in yesterday. I thought it was a smart move to move the game time up an hour, and that was Larry DeVito, the head groundskeeper.
Oh, okay.
He's the one that kind of got the ball rolling on that a couple of days ago. It wasn't just the managers, even the players. It was not even the direct front office. It was the head groundskeeper who looks at the forecast and has dialogue with his staff and others. He's the one that kind of planted that seed a couple days ago to maybe move the game time up an hour, and it was a genius move. But
Hmm.
that was my concern yesterday. Was all right. They're down 3-0. I think they're going to score. I don't have issues with that, but will they be able to do it in a manner before the rain arrives? You don't want to be down after 5, 4.5, whatever it's going to be. You want to make sure you have the lead before the weather arrived, and that it did. But Jose Miranda putting up a 5-hit game. How good has he been
Yeah.
now for a while?
Right.
And
Right.
Byron Buxton's been red hot. He didn't even play yesterday. Correa, I think, is going to be an all-star for the third time in his career. So as I said earlier, Sam, it's not just one guy right now. It
Hmm.
really has been a steady group that's been leading this charge offensively.
Yeah, it's been refreshing to watch. 22 straight games with the home run. Jeffers had one yesterday. What do you make of this streak? Obviously, it's not going to last the rest of the season, but this is pretty impressive what they're doing.
I didn't realize that this streak is longer than any one that the team was able to put together during that 2019 Bomba
Right? I,
Squad
I said that earlier this
record-setting
week.
season. I had no idea. I would have thought they would have had something similar, but we had a note that I think the longest they went in 2019 was 14 straight games with a
Wow.
home run. They have blown by that. I think it speaks to the depth of the lineup. I think it speaks to the fact that, as I said, normally when you have a hot team, it's pretty much one or two guys that are kind of leading the way, but that's not the case. I mean, I think the number was that during this run, they've hit now 30 home runs or 31 home runs during
Hmm.
this streak of 22. And I think they've been hit by 14 or 15 different players.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
that's that's something. I mean, that's really something that it's not just the same guy doing it, day in and day out. So I think there's strength with the lineup. The Twins with their lineup, how they construct it normally, 5 through 9, that group has been among the better groups, 5 through 9, any lineup in baseball in terms of producing runs, home
Hmm.
runs, doubles, up there with any potent lineup in the game. So it's not just a top heavy group. The guys that Rocco puts in the middle towards the bottom half are also hitting for power.
Right. Well, and a guy who's out of that lineup for a little bit is Royce Lewis. Went down on Wednesday. Do we have an update on him at all? Right adductor strain. Is
Yeah.
that what they're saying? Is there any update? Anything that you've been hearing on
So
that?
here's what I know. So it's on the right side,
Hmm.
which is the same side as his knee, both surgeries, and his quad.
Yeah.
I'm not a medical expert. I think there's something coincidental going on there. I just think that leg in particular is probably just because of all the trauma it's gone through. That's troublesome. That it keeps happening on the same side, same leg area. Again, maybe not a surprise considering what the man has been through. But you have a tendon and you have a muscle in that adductor. The tendon, if you do anything with that, that could be more severe. This is more in the muscle.
Okay.
So that's why I think the immediate time frame is more promising than it was with the quad or certainly a knee. He's going to be down through the All-Star break. The Twins, they have an extra day. They don't start the second half until Saturday, not Friday. And that's Milwaukee is in town for Saturday, Sunday. And then the Phillies are in town for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So two great teams, two first place teams, both from the National League out of the All-Star break. It'd be great if Royce is back by then. Then there's an off day, and the team is on the road, Detroit and the Mets. So somewhere in that time frame. But certainly through the All-Star break, that's how long Royce is going to be down, and then we'll see what kind of baseball activity he can start doing here. I would hope towards the middle of next week, maybe towards the end of next week, he can start ramping up some baseball activity.
And there's been stretches this season where he's looked like he's the best player in baseball. And maybe I'm reading into this wrong. The quote that he had after the game on Wednesday, it didn't seem like he was too confident. It seemed like he wasn't very optimistic on where things are going. After being injured this much early in his career, is his confidence in question at this point, or am I looking into this wrong?
Now, that's a fair question because his optimism was always something that came out after every setback he's had. He just still had that smile on his face and this bright light of optimism that he was going to come back from. This one seemed a bit more deflating.
Yeah.
That was absolutely my takeaway as well. Now he spoke again yesterday before the game, and he was able to provide, I think, more of an update. And we saw that sense of humor, and we saw some more optimism yesterday. Like he even said, right now it's loosened up. I feel like I can go DH, but we're not going to rush it back because I also have to play the field. I'm not
Hmm.
just going to be a DH here at 25 years old the rest of the season. He also had a good line too about, you know, how can he avoid this from happening again? And he said, I don't know. He said maybe Babe Ruth had it right. He played forever, never got hurt, smoked a lot of cigarettes, and it worked for him. So maybe that's the path that I have to go down. But I thought that he was able to provide some levity yesterday for
Yeah.
the first time. So some more optimism
Good.
yesterday, Sam, that I heard and felt than from what we saw the day before.
Okay, that's a good sign. Twins bring up Brooks Lee after this injury, and he has been doing very well in his first two games. What are your thoughts on his debut and yesterday stepping in and making an impact right away?
I mean, he looks polished. I mean, he
Yeah.
looks like a kid that was, almost in like a baseball factory, an incubator growing up with his dad, Larry, being this legendary college coach at Cal Poly. So he doesn't look overwhelmed. He looks like he fits right in. The odd thing is that this guy known for his bat and known for his, swing, his first big league at bat didn't swing the bat one time and struck out. But he wasn't going to let that happen again. So now I like the fact where he's hitting in the order. I think a
Yeah.
big mistake was made going back in 2013 to when Aaron Hicks made his big league debut directly from Double A spring training, made the team out of camp there in 13, and hit leadoff against Justin Verlander to begin his big. Hang on, I got to sneeze. Sorry, one
No,
second.
no worries here. I can meet you here.
Sorry,
All
allergies.
good. All
So
good.
I just thought that that was a mistake. And over time, I've always wondered, okay, when these guys come up, where should they hit? And you see it traditionally, guys that have a lot of accolades, that have been on the cover of different magazines and journal, whatever, that they are hitting now seventh, eighth, or ninth
Yeah.
when they start their big league careers. He's going to move up over time. That's we're not going to debate that. But I think for now, hitting him eighth, playing him at third base, he's going to play every single day. That to me has made a lot of sense. And he looks like he belongs and he's going to play.
Yeah.
What I'm curious if because the day is going to come here. I don't think in this series, but at some point on the road trip where Correa is going to have a day, he's not going to play. Is that going to be Brooks or is that going to be Willie Castro
Mm,
or is it going to be Kyle Farmer? I
right.
asked Rocco that the other day. He was non-committal based on how the rest of the guys are going, how the lineup looks, who they're facing, all that. But that to me is something worth watching. Is when the day comes, and I hope it's not this weekend. I think these three games, Houston's playing well. Get Correa out there for all three, but on the road trip, if he does get a day, does Lee start it short, or is that somebody else?
Right. Well, that's one thing I was going to ask you too. If Brooks keeps up this pace that he's on right now in the first couple of games, and then Royce Lewis comes back, is Brooks a guy that you want to keep on the main roster here for as long as you can, or is there a chance he goes back down to St. Paul?
Decision. This
Yeah.
decision will be made at some point, and it's a good question. And what I've learned over time with this is that the baseball gods have a way of working themselves out.
Yeah.
Just when you think you're set and everybody's in the right spot, something else pops up. At this time of year, trades too, and it's
Yes.
not just
Yep.
it's not just always injury or performance, but trades become part of the conversation where rosters are rather fluid. So, he's played some second base, not a lot. He's played some second base, but I think if that does happen, I think Royce is going to play third, but he's probably not going to play 7 in a row at third.
Hmm.
But that Jose Miranda is also going to have to play. That's the thing here is that Rock has to figure out a way to keep Miranda's bat in the lineup as well, whether that's at first, some third, some DH. So Jose's got to factor in. He's not an option at second base. Miranda's not gonna be there unless they're really in an emergency
Right.
situation. Whereas I could see Lee kind of moving over there a little bit if needed. But I don't see Royce going to second. I
Yeah.
see Royce when he comes back, third base, DHing, yes. But then if Lee's still on the roster, he'll play some third still. But maybe he'll kind of figure into the second base puzzle as well.
Okay. We're due for a break here in just a little bit, but before we get to that, I wanted to ask about the pitching rotation. It seems like they're turning it on a little bit right now. Bailey Ober's had a great stretch over the last couple of starts. Uh, he's one of the more dominant guys on that starting rotation, isn't he, right now?
Ton of strikeouts. What is it? 27 strikeouts
Yeah,
over his last
yes,
three starts. I mean,
something like
he's
that.
doing great. He's really throwing the ball well with conviction. And his slide, I thought his changeup yesterday was magnificent. And that changeup he has, the way he can tunnel his fastball up with his incredibly long arms, right? That extension that he has, and how quickly that ball just jumps on a hitter because of his length. And then he throws that changeup almost from the same arm slot, and
Hmm.
it just tumbles down. That's an effective 1-2 pitch. I mean, that's what, as Kevin Gosman throwing harder than Bailey Ober, but Kevin Gosman's made himself a nice career and a lot of money basically with a two-pitch mix, a
Right.
fastball and a splitter. Bailey's got his fastball, he's got his changeup, the cutter that's new, that's been effective. That was a good pitch he had going in Oakland a couple starts back. It was effective too against Seattle. He had a couple yesterday. In fact, he used that to strike out Andy Ibanez one time. They had a lengthy at bat, change up, fastball, and said enough's enough, and then went to his cutter and got him. So he's got some pitches here. He really does
Hmm.
have some weapons to go with. So Bailey, he's doing his part, and then Pablo's been great. His last couple, he gets the ball
Yeah.
tonight against Houston.
Yeah, and we're going to touch on that in a little bit, but we need to get to a break. Are you free to stick around for another
Sure.
10 minutes or so?
Yeah,
All right, we're
you
going to
bet.
take our first break on this Friday morning edition of Hot Mike. Cory Provus from the Minnesota Twins joining us. When we come back, we'll talk about the All-Star break that's coming up right around the corner. Hot Mike returns after this. Welcome back on this Friday morning edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, streaming on inform.com. Hello to our friends in Sioux Falls, watching on KSFL TV, and also don't forget about the app, WDAY Plus. Cory Provus, the voice of the Minnesota Twins, joins us once again to continue our conversation of how well they've been playing so far. And All-Star break is coming up just right around the corner. I'm looking at the schedule here. We have 3 series until we get to that point. Does it feel like it's years away for you, or does it feel like it's right there?
No, it feels close. It does feel close. You kind of you look at this date when the season starts, and you're like, all right, got to go here, got to go there. But now now you can start to sense it and start to see it, and yeah, there's some enjoyment because it's a special time for my wife and my kids. We just really savor that time
Yeah.
together. We don't get too many opportunities to do the Minnesota summer lake cabin experience,
hmm
but that is something we make the most of during the All-Star break. So looking
Yeah.
forward to it, and it's a bonus, like we talked about earlier, that the Twins, we open the second half at home,
hmm
which has been rare, and we do so with an extra day. That we don't start on Friday, we start on Saturdays. So just more time just to unplug, get away from baseball and get away from devices
Yep.
and just kind of soak up some family time.
Yeah, that is so important during a long and grueling MLB schedule as you go throughout the year. The All Star game starters were released. Did you get a chance to look at them at all? Do you agree with who was chosen to get the start in that game?
Yeah, I don't lock in on it too much because
Right.
some of it is and God bless fans, but it's a popularity contest
hmm hmm
often at certain positions. So I think for the most part they're good. I think there's some that you can always bet. Come on.
Yeah.
But I think the intriguing one to me was the American League shortstop position. I think between Gunnar Henderson and Bobby Witt
Yeah.
Jr., there was no wrong answer. Bobby Witt would have been neat for him to start that. He's going to be there, but he's from that area. He's from the Arlington, Dallas, area. So that's where the All Star game is. So to be an All Star starter in his hometown, if you want to call it that, I think that'd be pretty cool for him. But I have no issues with it.
Yep.
I'm not a big believer that every team has to have one. I
Yeah.
think that's silly. Um, people disagree on that. I don't think it's always a big market contest. I mean, Jose Ramirez is not a big market player, but he's a great player. I mean, he's
Mm.
one of the game's best players. He plays in Cleveland. He deserves to go. Salvador Perez has been an all-star starter forever at catcher. He's not this year because Adley Rutschman's good. That's fine. But
Yep.
there are places for the smaller markets and mid-market teams to send their players. Fans have just as much time to vote and show up and do that. But there have been some years where the Twins have had some bad teams. Like in 2016, the Twins had a bad
Yep.
team. Eduardo Nunez was their all-star. He was okay. He was fine. But was he one of the game's best players? No. He
Yeah.
was he
Yep.
was an all-star because every team had to have one. And the White Sox are terrible this season, but they have players that are deserved all-stars. Garrett Crochet should be an all-star, and he
hmm
will be an all-star. He's got, I think, the highest starting WAR of any pitcher in baseball right now. He's been great. So he deserves to go because he's one of the game's better players, not because every team has to have one. So I'm not a big believer in that. I think you're denying the best players from
Right.
being there because every team has to have one, but I don't sense that rule is changing anytime soon.
Who should be there from the Twins? You mentioned Carlos Correa earlier. Is there anybody else that makes this list at all?
I think Willie Castro was putting up a strong case there for he's cooled off for the last two
Mhm.
weeks. It's a smaller sample. I know that's not fair just to judge a player based on that, but
Yeah.
I think that he was making a strong case because of his versatility and just to have a guy that can make the team and be utility. I think there's some value with that, but I think it's only going to be Correa. I would say that, and then the things may change as
Yep.
injuries happen. Player ballot, that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
factors in a little bit. But yeah, I have a pretty good, strong feeling that Correa is going to be there. He's doing this also while Anthony Volpe is slumping a little bit.
Yeah.
So the shortstop position was very deep, still is very deep with Henderson and Witt and Corey Seager and Volpe and Correa right there. But Carlos, he's moving up. I mean, He was second only. He was ahead of Bobby Wood Jr. In fact, in Fangraphs and WRC Plus, and how much runs you create for your team, which is a great way to look at how valuable a player is for his team offensively. And Correa was ahead of Bobby Wood Jr. Just a couple of days ago, behind Henderson amongst all American League shortstops. So Correa, what he's doing, you can't deny the facts, and he's
Mhm.
putting up great numbers, and he's a deserved All-Star this year.
Absolutely. We've been having a couple of debates on this show throughout the week, and I want to get your opinion on them revolving around the All-Star game. The first one is, do you agree that the All-Star game is no longer, do you agree it's a good idea that the All-Star game is no longer for home field advantage during the World Series or not? I've been back and forth on it. I'm not sure how I feel. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it should be still?
No, I think the team with a better record should host. I think that
Yeah,
you do over 6 months matters.
right,
It should matter.
right. As opposed to
And
just one game.
as opposed to one game where what are we doing here? I mean, who's going in? Are we really having the best players play because they're on pitch counts and they only can go this inning, and this guy's limited to only three at bats. I mean, so I have no issue with that. I'm glad that that part went away. I think that home field should be based on the two teams that are playing who had the better season. I mean, the
Right,
6 months that you play the regular season should matter.
right.
I don't have any issue with that. I'll be honest with you, Sam. I don't watch the All Star game.
I know it's your time to take off. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't. It's not destination programming for me.
Hmm.
It's if it's on somewhere, I may give it a look here, and then if one of the Twins players is coming up soon, I may sneak back just to watch an at bat. But for me, it's not destination programming.
Right.
For others, I get that it is. I saw that they tinkered with the home run derby. Fine, that's cool. I think the derby is fun. I would love a skills competition too,
Yeah.
but that'll never happen because of the fear of injury, a guy
Hmm.
hurting himself running. But I think it'd be so fun to see Bobby Wood Jr. and Ellie De La Cruz and a
Yeah.
sprint contest and see these guys fly.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really neat to see. It'll never happen. Arm strength, all that stuff, pitching velocity, all the stuff that we talk about. That'd be fun to see in some kind of exhibition setting. But again, it'll never happen. So the Derby is cool. I still think there's that's neat, but only if the top guys are doing it. I mean, Otani's not going to do it this year. I get why. He's recovering from his arm injury and his elbow injury, so he's not going to do anything that's going to jeopardize that. I get it. But if the top guys or most of the top guys are doing it, then I'm going to be drawn in to watch more
Yeah.
than I will be if it's just, a guy that I know because I'm in the business, but my son who's 11 loves baseball. He
Hmm.
may not know every player in the game,
Yeah.
so that's a part of it. But
Yeah.
the actual game itself, I don't mind that that's gone away. And then
Hmm.
with the two teams that reached the World Series, whoever had the better season, that team should host. I like that. I like that path.
Yeah. Our Zoom call is giving us the 10-minute warning, so I have one more for you. July in the MLB means trade deadline. Are the Twins a team that are going to make any moves, or are they going to stay quiet during this period?
I think they'll make some moves this year, and the guy that's on my radar is Max Kepler,
Mm.
because he's a free agent at the end of
Yeah.
the year, and so that is something that is on my radar. I'm sure is on the radar of many. He had a really good game yesterday. He set the standard for how to play right field to target field forever, and
Hmm.
that's the whoever plays right field to target field. That's going to be the bar, the measuring stick is you're the best since Max, but are you better than Max? That's going to take a long time to figure out because
Yeah.
Kepler has mastered every little corner and bounce in that beautiful section of the ballpark. So I think that's an intriguing name to keep an eye on. But I think the team has needs, and there's no doubt about that. I think they have needs. I think pitching is certainly there, starting pitching, bullpen. Well, Margot is doing fine right now. He's put up good numbers hitting from the right side. 2 months ago, I would have said a right-handed hitting outfielder. That's certainly going to be on their mind, and it still may be. But I think the focus is probably going to be bullpen starting pitching. If I had to kind of read the tea leaves here with how this may play out through the end of July.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll cut you loose because you got the 3-game series that starts tonight with Houston. Appreciate you for coming on this Friday, and I hope you enjoy the time off that you're going to have here over the next month or so. So thank you again for coming on.
You got it, Sam. Take care, man. All
Have
the
a good
best.
one. Have a good one. Cory
You bet.
Provus joining us, the voice of the Minnesota Twins, with a great conversation on how this season has been going. It's been a real busy stretch for him. We were talking off air. He's going to take some time, head up to Brainerd in the next couple of weeks, and then they have the All-Star break, and how important that is to take some time off with the family. With that being said, due for another break. Hot Mic on this Friday morning rolls off. We'll give you a more cordial welcome into the show when we come back. Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, Inform.com, and KSFL TV in Sioux Falls.